All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Evolving Activist. And today I'm super excited. I have a guest for you, Nick Coughlin, who is the founder of the Good Kid Project, which is, it's released a story series called We're All Animals. In fact, there's more than just the story series, I know. But Nick's going to tell you all about the Good Kid Project. It's basically for young children whose attitudes about our place in the world are still forming. And it's how parents can help their kids really learn tolerance, humility, compassion, and still have fun while they're doing it. So welcome, Nick.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on. I've been wanting to talk to you on the show for a long time, so I'm excited. I know you're an animal activist. We met at the animal rights conference. Gosh, I think it was the one in DC like 100 years ago, but
maybe it was LA. Yeah, I don't know exactly. I thought that we met in LA, but wherever it was several years ago. And then of course follow you on social media and all of that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So tell me, is animal rights your primary activist focus, or do you have other causes that you support and advocate for?
Yeah, well, there are certainly other causes that I care about, but far and away, animal rights, animal advocacy has been my passion since I was a little boy.
Nice.
And it is I feel like it's my purpose in the world is to make the world a better place for animals. And there's all sorts of different ways to do that. And you know, I've chosen a niche, and that's where I'm working right now. But I tend to try to stay away from some of the other, I mean, I have my views on politics. I'm, you know, kind of libertarian-ish. I have strong views and opinions on race relations. I think that's obviously a big thing in our world right now. But I kind of stay away from those topics, at least publicly.
Right. Pick your battles, right?
I don't want to distract from, you know, the message of treating animals with kindness.
Right.
I think that is where I want to focus my energy, and so that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, and your story series is called We're All Animals, right? So I think it helps kids kind of make that what we call the intersectional connection, right? Is that when they realize that we're animals too, to treat each other and non-humans with compassion is all part of the same values.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. And your siblings are also pretty active on behalf of the animals, right? So tell us what they do. Were you their inspiration, or were they your inspiration?
Well, I'm super lucky. Like I always, in talking to other people who are in animal advocacy, who are vegans, or maybe they're new to the movement, I always make sure they know that I am very blessed to have grown up in a family. My entire family is vegan, and to some degree or another, we're all animal advocates. And so, you know, I had it relatively easy compared to a lot of people who have come to these ideas or these conclusions on their own, and kind of without the support of their families have paved their own path. I kind of had it handed to me on a silver platter. And so in a lot of ways I was lucky and I had it easy.
That is such an amazing way to be, right? To have like, wow, my whole family's vegan. You know, and most of us are like the only vegan in our family, and nobody wants to talk about it. It's like much less everybody advocating. It's kind of like, well, you know, could you just stop bringing your politics to the table?
Right.
So that's amazing.
It makes family gatherings a whole lot easier.
Oh, for sure.
And I know a lot of people just, I know you know, family members can be the most challenging.
Yeah, they can.
That's what I hear, you know, and my extended family, I've got, you know, extended family, and I live in the Midwest. And so I come from a meat and potatoes culture. My relatives are hunters. They kill animals for fun. And so I deeply disagree with those behaviors. I deeply disagree with that. philosophy, but I love them as people, and I know that our way, at least I'm kind of not answering your question yet. I'll get there, but I think that our ability to get along with other people in the world is one of that's one of the most important things we can focus on, I think, as activists.
Yeah. I know. Well, Brene Brown talks about, like people are hard to hate close up, right? Move in.
Right.
And, my experience has always been that when people can feel safe with you, they're more likely to listen.
Yeah. When people like you, they're more likely to listen.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So so getting back to my family, my parents were my inspiration, really. I mean, they were the ones who, my dad is an anarchist and my mom grew up on a farm. Shortly after they got married, my dad decided that he didn't want to eat animals anymore. And so my mom had to just completely relearn. I mean, she already was trying to learn how to cook and she had to kind of start over.
Right. Because she grew up on a dairy farm, right? So she was in the animal ag kind of.
That's right. Yeah.
So she had to learn a whole new way of being.
Yeah. So they were the ones who they talked to us about the way we treat other people, the way we treat other beings. And animals were a part of that conversation. And somehow when I was a kid, I got my hands on an Animals Agenda, an issue of the Animals Agenda, which was a magazine back in the day.
Okay.
Long before the era of the internet.
Right. Because you look that old, right?
Well, this was in the 80s. It would have been probably not the late 70s. It probably would have been the 80s at some point. I don't remember exactly when it was. I know that I was young, but I got my hands on this magazine, and it showed the most horrific things that people were doing to animals, and I was mortified. I couldn't believe what we were doing, and that was a real turning point in my life. And I decided I never wanted to be a part of any of that.
Right. And that was a big shift for you, because before that you hadn't quite made the connection. You were kind of coming to it, but you hadn't quite got there.
Yeah, that's right. So you asked about my brother and my sister. My brother is he's an engineer, and he works with a lot of I don't know if this is a kind way to say it. Like gearheads, he works with mechanically inclined people. People who are not, like the target demographic for vegan advocacy. But he's brilliant because he's very understated in his approach. And he can connect with people because he's in that world. He connects with these people and he doesn't, shove it down their throat, but he, advocates in his own way and is more understated in his approach. And my sister, on the other hand, is the state director for the Humane Society of the United States in Minnesota. And so she's doing, political work on behalf of animals. And so she's more kind of out there in the open, but it
just goes to show, right? We all have our own approach to it, and you got to find what works for you.
That's right.
I couldn't do the political thing, right? But because I'm not inclined that way, and my skills don't line up there. But it's so grateful for people who can do that, right? And who enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just having a conversation with somebody else about this very topic. There are a million different ways we can go about this work. And there are a million different approaches that we can take. And in the end, I do think that, being palatable, being kind, having a softer, gentler approach, I think that that's kind of where I've come. And that's kind of the approach that I take now. But I was brought into this by seeing horrific images.
Right. So you weren't always the conciliatory kind of let's make a relationship and then let's talk about it person, right? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I've gone through several transformations.
As an angry vegan.
I was. And I've got an article out there somewhere on the internet about you know, the fact that we're preaching compassion but acting like jerks. And that was me. I mean, so I got online, I got on Facebook shortly after it became, you know, open to the public.
Right.
And I was angry, you know, rightly so. We're angry, you know, we're seeing this injustice, all these injustices, and we want it to stop right now. And so I was angry, and I was incredibly ineffective. I mean, I would spend days arguing with people online,
Right.
and doing no favors to the animals. You know, I think that I probably turned off far more people than I turned on to these ideas, just because I was, you know, I'm sure I was belligerent, you know, and I was just the angry sort of angry vegan. And I learned from different people like Paul Shapiro, Colleen Patrick Goudreau, Wayne Pacelli, Gene Bauer. All of those people taught me, they made me rethink my approach.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because
Colleen's a real favorite of mine. She always reminds me to come back to my values, you know.
Yeah.
Just come back to your values, live your values. It's compassion. That's a core value, you know. Yeah.
She has an incredible ability to express herself clearly, and express ideas clearly. She's a personal friend. I adore her, and I think that she's done so much to help other activists and then also bring people into this world. So
very much so. Yeah. Yeah. So you didn't, I mean, so when you first came across that magazine as a kid, you were horrified, right? It changed your worldview. Did you immediately decide I have to be an activist, or did you kind of evolve into that? Like, I know a lot of people go vegan, you know, and it's kind of like, well, I want to just be an example. I want to live my life. I don't want to have to necessarily go out and advocate.
Right.
What was your journey?
I was an activist right away.
I mean,
there were ads in there. There were ads in that magazine, and I think it was a PETA ad. So I sent away for a package of stickers and different, you know, like a bumper sticker and these little stickers that you could put on meat in the grocery store that says, "Warning: this package contains dead animals." And so, like, you know, I'm just a kid. I got this thing. I go to the grocery store. I'm scared out of my mind, but I put stickers on the meat packages. I don't necessarily advocate that you know, that's the best approach now, but my reaction was like, I got to do something here. And so it wasn't only, you know, and I remember I asked my dad if he'd bring me to a fur protest when I was a kid. So he drove me downtown Minneapolis, and I got a sign, and I started marching with other people around, I can't remember what store it was, but they were selling fur. And so, you know, even back then, I was a little kid protesting. I had people yelling at me. You know, the common reactions, I think, to people protesting: get a job, you know, get a life, and all sorts of negative energy. But my response was to try to do whatever I could. And so it's just been a journey, and I think it's a journey for all of us to figure out how we can be most effective.
And it evolves as we evolve.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I love that, you know, as a kid, you were saying, I want to do this, take me to the protests, you know, because I see a lot of people get flack for taking their kids to protests, right? And, you know, like, you're indoctrinating them, and why don't you let them decide? And nobody ever thinks about the fact that maybe the kid actually wants to be there. Maybe the kid is asked to be there.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to think about the fact that whatever we do with our kids, in one way or another, we're indoctrinating them. I mean, we're teaching them our values. And so if you're feeding your kid animals,
right,
I mean, that's a form of indoctrination in and of itself. It's telling them this is okay, this is okay, this is ethically okay. And so that's, you know, that's not indoctrination, I don't know what is.
Exactly. 3 times a day, every day, right?
Right.
Yeah, so true. So tell me, like, as a kid, you were an activist, you had these compassionate parents, right, who were showing you the way.
Yeah.
As an adult, tell me a little bit about the Good Kid Project.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems to me like you're coming at this from like, let's empower the next generation.
Right. Okay, so through all of these different transformations, like going from the angry vegan to who I am now, I've gone through all sorts of different iterations of me and who I am, and trying to figure out how I could be most effective. And that's a question we as activists all need to ask ourselves, because there is no one way. It's, what are our skills? What are our strengths? Like you were talking about, you're not made for politics. Neither am I. I've tried. I can go lobby.
Trying.
I can go lobby once a year, but that's about the extent of my interest in working in politics. But
I write my politicians and I vote.
Right. So we can all do different things, and it's a matter of figuring out what are my greatest strengths, and what's my story, and how can I use that to my advantage. And so with the Good Kid Project, that it was just a matter of trying to figure out, okay, where can I work and where can I be most effective? And frankly, I have the perfect story. I went from a kid who literally, I remember trying to throw a dog in the neighborhood, like herd a dog. I'd pick it up and throw the dog. I'm embarrassed to say it. It's horrifying. It's repulsive to me what I did. I smashed ants and I pulled their legs off. Right. On the sidewalk, and I tried to shoot birds for fun up at our family cabin. I don't know why I was acting this way, but I was a little boy, and I was just on a bad path.
Right. And the story about what little boys do, right? Yeah.
So then the lessons that my parents were talking about and teaching us started to take root. And they started to have an impact on me. And I had this transformation as a little kid. I know this can happen. Yeah. It happened to me. And if and I grew up to become, an animal advocate. This is my purpose in the world. Yeah. So, there are all sorts of people, all sorts of parents who have these values that you and I share about animals, and want so badly to make sure that their kids grow up to become compassionate people who treat not only animals with respect and kindness, but other people. And that's what this work does. When you teach a kid to treat an animal with kindness and respect, that naturally translates to the way they treat other people. And so this is a wonderful way for us to just make the world a better place.
Right, because you're coming at it from the kids' worldview. Kids are naturally, they haven't developed cynicism yet. Mm-hmm. So if they can learn these compassionate values, they kind of bypass the angry vegan stage, right? And they just become natural, compassionate advocates, and it's just the way of the world to them.
Yeah, let's hope. And that was the sort of the impetus for this first product that I created called We're All Animals. I worked with my mom as a writer, and my mom is the woman who, she and my dad, but she was very instrumental in facilitating my own transformation, helping inspire me to become more compassionate, to live more kindly. Yeah. And so I worked with her to create this story series about a brother and sister who realized through everyday experiences that we're not all that different from other animals. And it's just a gentle way to help kids start thinking about our relationship with other beings, and take them into consideration as we go about our lives. Right. So we wanted to make sure that this was, a gentle approach, that we're not whacking kids over the head with horrible imagery, horrible ideas. I worked with Ruby Roth on the illustrations. She's a genius. And so all of the illustrations are playful, and, some of them deal with difficult stuff, but none of them are traumatizing. Right. And I think that that's important, especially with the younger kids.
Exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of the time we shy away from the hard stuff, right? But kids are amazingly so much more resilient and so much more insightful than we give them credit for.
Absolutely.
I think having those tough, hard conversations or having conversations about hard subjects
Mm-hmm.
Can actually be hugely beneficial for us and them,
Yeah.
much kinder sometimes than trying to protect them from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's what, like, we're not shying away from difficult subjects. In fact, we're going straight into them.
Yeah.
But we're doing it in a way that kids can relate to, that's not scary. And then for each one of the stories, there are 30 different stories, and they each have discussion questions, so that you can kind of take the lessons a little further. And then there's challenges, so that the kids can take these ideas out into the real world.
Great.
And
Yeah, really
get
apply
active.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the discussion questions, because I think, something that, especially now with the pandemic and people spending more time together at home, spending, more interaction with their families, is like, giving parents a kind of a framework to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Is so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we made sure to include, we have an adult guidebook that goes along with this series, and it has suggested answers to the questions. So if there are parents who don't feel totally confident with with this topic or these topics, got some suggested answers, and
that's helpful.
Try to make it easier. I also worked with a teacher, and created a lesson guide that goes along with the story series. So I haven't started pushing that out. I do have it available, but I haven't really started pushing that out yet. I will.
All right, well, I'll be pushing it out to parents, because you're all homeschooling right now.
Right.
So,
right.
Guess what? Here's something super easy and simple and done for you. There's a whole lesson plan. So get out there and incorporate that into your homeschooling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a phenomenal resource. It's a great way to just to introduce this into your classroom. You've got everything laid out for you. So no, it's that came out of a conversation I had with Lisbeth, who runs Teach Kind with PETA.
Okay, yeah. I met Lisbeth on a virtual networking event recently.
Phenomenal.
She's a powerful lady.
She is. Yeah, she's super smart. Really good at what she does.
And she's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. It's a great program with Teach Kind.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation at the Animal Rights Conference last year.
Okay.
And she encouraged me to create something for the classroom. So we're actually
great. And you've also got videos on your website. You've got stories from kids.
Yep. So we try to interview kids, have a good kid of the month every month.
Yeah.
I'll be publishing one later today, I think. Just going out and looking for kids who are making the world a better place, through animal advocacy. I decided, I made a conscious decision. Good Kid Project is very sort of general, the name in and of itself, but I'm focusing exclusively on kids who are doing good things for animals.
I love that.
I think that's where my passion lies. That's sort of the point of this whole thing. So that's what we're focusing on. Exactly. So if anybody watching or anybody listening has a kid who's active and who's doing, inspirational things or making a big difference, head over to thegoodkidproject.com and get in touch with me.
Good. Yeah. Let's get these kids' stories out there. They're going to be changing the world.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. So how do we so the Good Kid Project right now, people can buy the story series and the guidebook and the lesson plan off of your website. How can we get these? How can we get it out in the world more broadly? How can we get it into libraries or, out to disadvantaged communities, places that they can't necessarily get online? What do you have ideas around that?
Well, I've thought quite a bit about that, especially with getting it into, disadvantaged communities or into the inner city, where I think these lessons really need to be. And it's something I might, try to work with an organization like Teach Kind to try to get, we could have a buy one, give one. So you buy one and then we donate one that is to go into the inner city,
Right.
to a teacher who's interested in teaching this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that there are ways I would have to partner with somebody who's tied in with the educational system already.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a teacher, this is absolutely something that you can bring into the classroom. You can share it. I'm gonna be focusing on Pinterest. I know that a lot of
Nice.
teachers go to Pinterest to look for lesson plans. So that's after my current project, I'm gonna start focusing on that, really trying to push this a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
yeah,
and parents, parents, if you're out there talking to teachers, like bring something, it's always amazing when a parent can offer something to a teacher, to a school. Donate, I donate books to my local library. I'll be donating some of these resources to my local library. So I'd highly encourage people to donate to your local libraries as well, especially if you're in the city.
Right. No, it's a great idea. A lot of my focus right now is trying to recover the initial investment that I made, which is, for me, pretty substantial.
Yeah.
So right now I'm focusing on sales, but ultimately I want these messages out there. Like, that's my goal. My goal isn't to, get rich. I would like to recover my investment, but
nice to get the money back there.
Yeah. And it'd be nice to, to just do this exclusively, and we'll be creating more products as we go. Got all sorts of ideas about how the Good Kid project can sort of evolve.
Beautiful. Yeah. And obviously people, like, buying products like this is a form of activism yourself. So if you're going to be buying these things, give them to friends and family as gifts. This is a great way to support somebody else's activism, but also it's a form of activism for you too.
Yep. Right.
So this is making it easy for you to be an advocate. Nick, tell me, it's, you mentioned initial investment. It's never easy taking on an entrepreneurial pursuit. And a lot of people have this story in their head about, like, how activism and capitalism, kind of social justice and capitalism don't really go in the same sentence.
Right.
Tell me about your decision to follow a more entrepreneurial activist path.
Yeah. So I kind of come from the nonprofit world, and doing, my entire adult life in different ways have volunteered, and I wholeheartedly believe in doing things for no money at all, doing things because you believe in them, volunteering, working for a nonprofit. You still get paid, hopefully.
Not
So
much.
I will continue to financially support the nonprofits that I think are doing good work.
Yeah.
But in the end, I truly believe that our greatest hope for making significant improvement for animals in the world lies in the for-profit world.
Right.
I think plant-based and cultivated meat companies that are, just taking hold now and starting to grow, and this whole world is beginning to explode. And I just think that represents our greatest hope for making real changes for animals.
Right.
I don't think that, I love capitalism because it is, at its core, of course, there are bad actors, but at its core, it's a peaceable exchange of goods and services.
Right.
And
or
so,
as my Reiki teacher says, an exchange of energy, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. And so if I don't provide something of value, I don't get paid. If I do, if I make somebody's life a little bit easier, or make their life a little bit better, they compensate me for that. I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. And I think that there are just all sorts of opportunities to create products that take animals out of the supply chain, and replace them with other, with plant-based products, or just whatever it might be. Right. Entertainment. Take the animals out. Change it. Let's get creative.
Yeah. Create a humane economy, right?
That's right.
Yeah, if we can we're not going to, I think for millennia, humans have exchanged goods and services, right? They've exchanged energy. Um, so I don't see dismantling that ever happening. Even if we, even if we move to a pure barter system, it's still an exchange of energy.
Right.
So yeah, let's reimagine it. Let's make it humane. Let's make it positive and constructive rather than raping and pillaging and exploiting. Right.
Yeah. And that's that's the thesis of Wayne Pacelli's book, The Humane Economy. So
right.
it's a good book for people who are interested in this topic.
Yeah. And if you've got an entrepreneurial bent, there's nothing to say that you can't use it on behalf of the animals. So let's do
right.
that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
And you had a great, and I personally, I hope to see this project revived at some point in the future. You had a previous project, a magazine called The Compassionate Man.
Yeah.
And some really inspirational material there.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you've tried different things.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that project that you're bringing to the Good Kid Project to make it more successful?
So a little earlier, you said something about that it's difficult to pursue entrepreneurial path.
Mm.
In a way, I think it's difficult not to. I mean, that's just some people are just born to do this sort of thing, and that doesn't mean that I've been successful with my pursuits, with all of them.
Yeah.
But I just have always had that entrepreneurial bug, and so it's hard for me not to be working on some project outside of my day job, for example.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, thank you for your kind words about the Compassionate Man. I mean, that was quite an experience, and I have zero regrets because I met people. I think you and I met through that. I mean,
probably, yeah. I think we had a conversation about it.
Yeah. I met so many people, and I had the opportunity to interview Bob Barker. I was a little kid, seeing him on TV, and suddenly I'm on the phone with him, which was pretty surreal. But I had the opportunity to meet so many cool people through this magazine called The Compassionate Man. It was a digital magazine, and I only published 6 issues. But through that experience, like I said, I met a lot of people, and I learned, although I sometimes enjoy writing and sometimes I think it clicks with me, it was incredibly painful it was so much writing, and I didn't partner up with anybody, and I think that was a mistake. And so that's one thing that I learned. Ultimately I'd like to I've got one person who works with me to a degree with the Good Kid Project, but otherwise it's just me. But ultimately I want to bring more people into the fold. So it was a great experience. I ultimately decided that this magazine was on you'd read it on a phone or on a tablet, and I at one point realized, like, this is not a product that I would consume. The content may be good, but the physical product itself, I just didn't think that was right for me, because it wasn't something that I wouldn't read a magazine on a phone.
Right.
So anyway, it was a great experience. One thing that I'm learning, I'm watching The Last Dance on Netflix right now. It's about Michael Jordan and the Bulls and all of their championship runs. And it's incredibly inspirational, because it's all about perseverance. That's Michael Jordan's mantra. He fights, and it's all about perseverance. And with, a startup, you've got to persevere. You've got to push through, because, I've done nothing but, lose money to this point. And I'm starting to make money now, but, you got to stick with it, and having something that you're passionate about really helps.
Totally helps, and that perseverance goes for all forms of activism, right? It's like we have to build resilience, and we have to lean on each other.
Yeah.
And we have to keep going, because this is a long game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned how many amazing people that you've met. as far as mentorship, how important do you think having a mentor is to people who want to make a difference in the world?
Well, I think it's important. It's something that I have mentors who don't know that they're my mentors.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I have a few of those.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Paul Shapiro, and I think he's somebody who I've always looked up to. He's younger than I am, but I've always looked up to him. And I lean on him with, I've got questions, and he's there with an answer, and it's an invaluable resource for me. There are other people who Colleen Petrick-Goudreau is also a mentor in a way.
Yeah.
The people I mentioned earlier, Wayne Pacelli, and I worked for Farm Sanctuary way back in 2003, 2004,
Okay. Yeah.
and so I've always admired Gene Bauer.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, it sounds like being able to reach out and ask for help and to ask for advice and input is really important, both as an entrepreneur and as an activist.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of these people are quite busy, and they're working on their own projects, and so it's not always possible. But just kind of modeling your behavior, yourself after people who you admire and who you'd like to be more like, be more effective. I lean on my sister quite a bit. My sister and I lean on each other, but I admire her to no end. I mean, she's incredibly effective and good at what she does, operating this world of politics and sort of having to moderate her, what she says, and which is historically something that I've had trouble with. I'm very opinionated and tend to express it.
Like insert filter.
That's right. So, being able to work in those gray areas is something that I haven't always been so good at, but my sister's very good at it. So, I'm able to, and then, yes, mentorship. Yes. If you can find somebody who's willing to do that for you, or even if they don't know. Exactly.
Yeah. What other advice would you have for people who are evolving on their activism path?
So, pursue your interests. I wrote these down. Find an unmet need, speak your truth, and be kind. Those are the four things that I think are most important, because if you don't pursue your interest, I think you'll burn out. Yeah. You might burn out even if you do pursue your interest. So there's what the work that you do, Lauren, I think is really powerful, because there's so much burnout, and there are people who've been traumatized by seeing what we've seen. Yeah. You've got to take care of yourself. And so that's something that I know that you help people with. And I think that that's wonderful. However you need to take care of yourself, you got to take care of yourself. But starting with pursuing your interests. And if you can find an unmet need, I mean, this is not unlike a for-profit business. Like, we're trying to sell ideas here.
Right.
So you've got to figure out, how can you meet an unmet need, and sell it. And then, be true to who you are, and then just be kind. And that's sadly it's something we need to keep on talking about. And it's like, I've not always been very good at that, and I know I could probably still be better.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell me, where can people learn more about the Good Kid Project? Where can they buy the stuff, so that they can either use it at home with their kids, donate it to schools, donate it to libraries? How can they get hold of you if they want to order some?
Well, it's very simple. Everything can be found at goodkidproject.com.
Okay, goodkidproject.com.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out directly to me, be happy to talk to anybody. My email address is nick, N-I-C-K, at goodkidproject.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you asking, first of all, and wanting to have this conversation with me.
I'm excited about this project. I think there's so much opportunity for it. And I think, you know, the more we can get the word out and the more we can give parents and teachers resources like this, the easier it is for them to have those conversations. And they'll probably, you know, make connections that they might not have otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's make it easy for people to do good.
Yes. Make it easy for people to do good. That's a mantra.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so very much for your time. And I look forward to seeing this really kind of exploding and taking off and becoming a whole suite of additional projects and tools. And I love to celebrate the kids that are doing good, your good kids on your website. So if, you know, again, parents, if you have kids who are doing good for animals in the world, get onto the website, goodkidproject.com. And, you know, let Nick know about them so that we can celebrate them.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it, Lauren. I think you're doing wonderful work, and I want you to keep doing it.
I will.
I appreciate you coming on here.
Okay. Thanks, Nick.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.